Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. How are you all today? I hope that everybody is well, and wherever you are in the world, peace has, I hope, rested at your door. I'm hoping for better days and for better times very soon. And in the meantime, I'm so happy that you have joined me on another episode. It's so lovely, actually, because I really love what I do. And my work is still really humbling with all the people that I meet. And I love people and their infinite stories of courage and wisdom. And I believe that everyone we meet has something beautiful to teach us. And sometimes it's not so easy, I have to say, but all in all, there is a greater reason for everything. Now, I have guests with so many deep and emotional stories, and I'm still surprised at the power of human beings to conquer great adversity. It's something that I am in awe. I'm in awe with all my guests, really, at how they have overcome great things. And even experts that I have on here all have been through something in order to achieve the position in their life that they're in. Now, today's guest is no different. I have the pleasure of introducing to you Giampiero Scatollon, and he's from New Hampshire in the United States, all the way from across the planet to me, and he is a conversation facilitator and also a public speaker. And he tells me that his main goal is to spread the message that through genuine conversations, an individual can potentially release years of emotional pain, which is a very interesting subject. In 2014, he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after he had served in combat as a soldier in Afghanistan in 2010. So after having been through the earth-shattering war, he's going to speak to us about the after effects and how it has impacted his life and how he has overcome all of this to try and to rebuild his life, but also to try to help others along their journey. So I'd love to welcome Giampiero. Hello, Giampiero.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and to share a little bit of my story and some of the insights I've been able to gather up over the years from just having conversations, genuine conversations, where I've realized that the more we speak, the more we learn. And if we pay attention, we can learn so much about ourselves and so much about other people if we just listen, not to get advice, but actually just to learn to articulate what is going on inside of us.
Which is not so easy. Now, before you tell us your fascinating story, Giampiero, please tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and what do you do, and what is your background?
Okay. I was born in Peru, and I grew up in Peru until I was 14 years of age. And then my family decided to immigrate to the U.S. And at 14, I went to the U.S. I had to learn the language. I went to high school there, and I like people. I like to talk to people, and I always wanted to feel accepted and loved. And I was always striving to be as American as I could, and striving to be part of the culture. And however, my Peruvian accent and roots always came along with me. And now I totally own my accent and my background, and I love that I'm a summation of multiple cultures and multiple experiences, and yeah, being American is part of me, but also being Peruvian is part of me. And I've spent some time in Europe, so a little bit of the European traditions and experiences are part of me. And my story really starts of self-discovery started in 2010 when I was spent most of 2010 in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. A little bit before that, in 2009, the economy was not doing so great in the U.S., and my biggest concern was to take care of my family, take care of my children. So at 32, I joined the U.S. Army out of desperation. I wanted to take care of my family, so I joined. I was concerned that I was not going to make it. I've never been the athletic type of guy, and all the young men who were in the military are usually 18, 19, 20. Mm-hmm. And I was 32, and then being put in that situation, I found myself that I was becoming a little different. I was able to keep up with the younger kids, and I graduated from basic training. And soon after that, I was sent to Germany as my duty station. And then a few weeks after that, I was in Afghanistan and in the middle of combat. And I was there in combat for 10 months. And then I began to see a lot of suffering, not only with the people that we were fighting against, but also my friends. And to me, the one thing that was one of the most shocking things that I saw, and I was not expecting to see, is children get hurt in the midst of this fighting. One time, this explosive, it got triggered, it exploded, and 3 children got hurt. And as I was pulling security to take care of these children so the medics could do their job, I saw the reflection of my children's faces on the faces of these kids. And that did something to me emotionally, where I started just like tearing up and crying. And then soon after that, I became numb. Because of the adrenaline and combat, I was just numb. But I was never the same after that. And the thing is, when you are in combat, you're suppressing all these emotions, you're living with a whole bunch of adrenaline, and being in survival mode, you don't see what you're becoming or turning into. And years later, when I was back in the civilian world, going to school, I began to get overwhelmingly sad day after day after day. And I started drinking and suppressing those emotions and numbing those feelings and emotions, until one day I realized this is not a long-term solution to whatever I'm dealing with right now. And I went to see a psychologist. And for 10 months, every other week, I spoke to a psychologist. And now looking back, I realized that the psychologist was not there to give me advice, was not there to give me tips. He was there to listen. And through the listening, me speaking and listening to myself, I began to realize that some of the things that I was saying were not optimal, were not beneficial for my own personal health. Some of them were partly true things that I was saying. But the thing about thought is, like, there are things that sound so clever and so true in your mind until you begin to speak and articulate those thoughts. And then you begin to hear how insufficient, how short-sighted they are. And this is why I think conversations are so important. Listen to yourself speak, and then you will realize, okay, maybe I need to rethink my philosophy. Yes. I need to rethink my thoughts. Yeah.
Now, these conversations, Giampiero, that you were having, are we talking about the conversations one has in the mind that then become words as an aftermath? Or are these conversations that you were having with people that you were realizing what you were saying, or was it a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both, because I believe that I see it in, like, they could manifest themselves in 3 ways. One, if you've been to a traumatic event, reach out and talk to a mental health professional. If that is not an option, find someone that you trust. somebody who has earned the right to hear your story. Because if you're just complaining and telling everyone all the bad things that have happened to you, it's just complaining. It's not beneficial to anyone.
Because you keep reliving that
yes,
that moment, and you keep putting energy into that moment, and especially after overcoming and dealing with the aftermath of a traumatic event, not only that you were within that moment, there were other people suffering. So, you know, in war, there are no winners, as they say. There's only losers in war. And the soul must, on some level, deeply be tortured by this.
Yes, 100%. Some people see that, well, unless you got shot or you got wounded, then you got hurt. But no, everybody comes back hurt. Everybody gets affected by it. You will never unsee or unhear or undo the things that were done. And I think this is what triggers PTSD, is this, the world as you know it gets destroyed. And now you are in this unknown territory, and now you have to make sense of it all.
And what are the symptoms? How long after that you came back from Afghanistan did you develop these symptoms, and what were they? How did you change? What was it? Your perception of the world? I know I deal with people on this level a lot, because everything becomes, in a way, a completely different perspective, and you see things in a way that you could never imagine that you'd seen them before.
It's I would say there are multiple processes and expressions of it. One thing that immediately happened, and I heard from a lot of the people that were close to me, that knew me, is that, Giampiero, you don't smile like you used to. What happened? So people began to see that, I was not smiling. There was no, you don't only smile with your lips, with your mouth. You smile with your eyes. You smile with your body. And something about the way I was showing up was dark. So that was one of those things. The other thing is your language changes. In my case, I was a little more cynical and nihilistic. I was like, what's the point? Nothing matters. Who cares? And that's not my essence. That's not who I wanted to be. That's not the reason why I joined the military. I wanted to take care of people, not be in a dark place where none of this matters. What's the purpose of life anyways? And my language changed, the way I was showing up changed, my posture. And then in spite of everything that I should have been grateful for and that I am, my kids were healthy, I was in a happy relationship, I was going to school. All those indicators that life is good were there, and yet I was feeling overwhelmingly sad every day. I was feeling all these negative emotions, and I began to drink a lot to numb the pain. But I think it's Brene Brown who said that when you numb all those negative emotions, you also numb all the positive ones.
Well, it goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
It goes hand in hand. And I know we spoke about this earlier before we came on air, but you told me that you had a lot of spiritual experiences, and they're very interesting. If you'd like to share, it would be
absolutely.
very interesting, yes.
The gaming process is I was an older man joining the U.S. military, so I've always read a lot of psychology books or self-help books, and all those insights, all those reminders were always there. And after I realized through therapy that through conversations, through telling the truth, through trying to make myself a little better every day, that I began to see hope and light at the end of the tunnel, I developed this idea that the light at the end of the tunnel, it's you. There's an optimal version of us that we wish we could be. And when you're going to struggle, when you're going through difficulties, if you become a little more than that person you wish you could be, it gets easier to navigate through the tunnels. And then when I went through that process, I was speaking, I was being more honest, more loving to myself. then I discovered that there were other possibilities available to me to discover more about me. And then I also discovered plant medicine, which is ayahuasca.
I've heard of that. What is that, Giampiero?
Well, it's a drink. It's a brew that comes from I would say the Amazon rainforest. It's two different plants that you take, and it puts you in a altered state of mind. It's a hallucinogen where basically your ego goes to sleep and you are encountered with pure thought. Pure thought where like you take a thought to its logical conclusion as opposed to censoring yourself. Oftentimes when we talk or we think, maybe we get a bright idea, but then immediately the ego gets in the way and says like, well, you're never going to do that, or no, who do you think you are? No, that's not you. But somehow the ego goes to sleep. And if you think of something, whether good or bad, you have to be careful. You have to prepare yourself to do one of these ceremonies of ayahuasca. But whatever you bring with you will show up in a greater form.
Yes, I mean, the great spiritual masters are always, what I've experienced by meeting several spiritual masters is whatever you're afraid of, whatever your issue is, or whatever your hang-ups are, when you're in the presence of something such as a spiritual experience, it becomes huge. So, for example, if you're afraid of spiders become huge like dragons. It's something that somehow the reflection of that fear becomes great.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego is a tricky thing, isn't it?
It sure is. And it keeps you, the ego or the brain, they want to keep you safe. Unfortunately, self-development, self-growth, sometimes you have to go and encounter those dragons and put yourself in a way, in harm's way, to be able to confront something. Like, for example, to have a conversation about something where you want to apologize. You have to put yourself in a vulnerable situation where you have to acknowledge, I did something wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong or bad. It's just like, I made some choices. Here I am. I'm trying to apologize. And it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel good to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I think self-discovery is the same way. It doesn't feel good when you go to a psychologist and you listen to yourself speak, and then you realize that part of the problem is you. It doesn't feel nice and pretty whenever you do one of these spiritual retreats, and then your mind is open and you realize that part of the problem is you. And if you want to change the world, it's up to you, and it begins with you, the way you talk to yourself, the way you behave, and the choices you make. And I think that's the scary part, that at the end of the day, part of the solution, in fact, the solution to your problem, it's you.
Mm-hmm. But that's a huge responsibility, to take the responsibility that actually, we were talking earlier, that in order to change the world, we have to change ourselves. It's so simplistic. There's no point in trying to change the world unless we ourselves have become changed. And not to the point, it is not about this. This is the greatest, as we said before, this is the greatest lie. It is not about changing to become something that you are not. Because this is where the difficulty is. In this world of comparison, everybody wants to be like everybody. But this is not the point. The point is to be oneself. And unless we change to become more of who we are, the reality of us, our life is going to be complicated. It's going to be full of suffering. And I'm interested, Giampiero, in these retreats that you talk about, because I do retreats myself. I run them and I've attended many as well. Is what sort of things have you experienced, and how has it helped you with your post-traumatic stress disorder and you as a soul?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've participated in 7 of these retreats. One of the things that they tell you, if you go to a place that is properly organized, they will give you a lot of warnings. If you're taking medication, it's not good for you to participate. If you are going through a very emotional moment in your life, try to sort things out, and then when you're in a better place where you're willing to work, because at the end of the day, it's work that you have to do. So they guide you through the process, they give you all these warnings, and then they start talking to you about this diet. And it's not only having a light meal and prepare yourself to participate in this event. The diet is also what you think, what you watch, what you read, and whatever you bring with you is what you're going to be able to work with. And if you come in with a lot of negativity, blaming other people, feeling sorry for yourself, you will get to experience so much more of that, because that's what's inside of you. I heard from a spiritual teacher one time, if you squeeze an orange, you're not going to get apple juice. You're going to get orange juice.
Yes, that's very true. You see, it's very simple. I think we make it complicated, but it's very true.
We do, yeah. We make it very complicated for ourselves. And so the point of that is just that when life squeezes you, when God, whatever you call it, when you get squeezed by life, whatever's inside of you is going to come out. And this is what people call a bad trip, because whatever is brewing inside of them comes out, and immediately they say, I want to stop this, I'm having a bad trip. It's just they don't want to deal with what's already been brewing in there for a while. And in a way, you have to eliminate it. One of the components of this ceremony is they call it a purge. And your body reacts to these chemicals, and your body wants to throw up, or you just wants to eliminate something. And they give you a bucket. And immediately when you feel like you want to throw up, they say, just be humble, pick up the bucket and throw up. And it goes hand in hand with a physical reaction, but also an emotional reaction. The moment you let go and say, okay, I'm going to throw up, then a whole bunch of thoughts and images and ideas and visions begin to come out. But if you fight it, you will feel sick, you will feel disoriented, and it will be, it's agony.
Yeah. It's confronting the darker side of us, isn't it?
Yes, you confront everything, and then you begin to learn to say goodbye to things. It's like a bad experience from your childhood, a traumatic event from war, or from a time when you were hurt by someone or you hurt someone. This is the thing, is like, to some people we may be a blessing, and to other people we may be a stumbling block. And then to be confronted with that, to realize that not only are you good, but you're also potentially a hurtful person, and you need to learn how to regulate that.
That's one of the greatest lessons, isn't it? Is that we have, all of us, we're walking that fine line of sanity and madness, and we're also walking the fine line of good and bad, in the sense we can choose. We are who we are in essence. Our essence is good. I do believe that in everybody, the essence is good, but it's what we choose to follow. What our actions are determines what effect we have on other people. And I think that is not only a daily choice, it's a momentary choice. How am I going to react to the neighbour that shouted at me? How am I going to react to my husband or my wife or my brother or my sister? Every moment is an opportunity and a responsibility. And this is the difficult part, I think, for many people to understand.
You're right. It is. One of the people who has influenced me a lot in the way I think is Eckhart Tolle. He wrote the book, The Power of Now.
Wonderful book.
It is. It's like, once I read it, I was like, my eyes were open a little more, and one of the things that comes up in my mind is where he said that redemption is in the now, because when tomorrow shows up, it's right now.
Yes.
and to realize, like you said earlier, moment to moment. Okay, I've done all these wonderful things in my life, but right now, here I am. Whatever decision I make or whatever I say is not only going to have an impact on me, but it's going to have an impact in the people around me. It ripples. And we have to be mindful that everything that we do has a huge effect. Everything that we say can have a huge effect. And like that's why I said earlier, we could be a blessing to some people, but a stumbling block to other people.
But in either case, it is needed.
Yes.
They are needed to be in our life for that moment, and we are needed in their life. And some of our greatest enemies can be our greatest teachers.
Yes. Well, I think like life, as Shakespeare said, the world is a stage.
Yes.
And we are going to play many parts. Sometimes we're going to make our entrances and our exits. But if you want to, this is the problem. The ego gets in the way. We don't want to make any mistakes. And if you don't want to make any mistakes, you're going to find yourself hiding most of your life. And you're going to have to show up, and you're going to do it poorly. You are going to fall flat on your face. You're going to say things. You're going to hurt people. Redemption comes when you realize that you did something wrong. It's like Brene Brown says, there's a difference between I did something bad as opposed to I am bad.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, because we are not, there's many philosophies out there, as you know, but we are not our thoughts. I really don't believe that. I think thoughts are just momentary things that, like the wind, they come, but we do not have to own them.
Right. There's one thing that, with what you just said, I thought of Carl Jung. And he's one of the most influential people in psychology, and he's written so extensively about thought, psychology, mystical experiences. And one of the things that he said is that we don't even know where thoughts come from.
Yes, it's very true.
So the moment we try to identify with our thoughts is when we begin to suffer. And of course, all the yogis, all the gurus out there trying to teach us is like, don't take anything personal. Don't become attached to your thoughts. Let go.
And set yourself free from your thoughts. And this is the real meditation, that you actually become thoughtless. You become connected to the divine, and you are as one. There is no separateness.
That is so true. Connected. I love what you just said. Connected to the divine. We are like instruments, and we need to allow the expression of the infinite to come through us, and don't get so cocky and attached to say,
Excellent.
"Oh, I did that.
Yes,
I am that." It's like that. Then you lose it. You lose that ability to be the manifestation of the infinite.
Because we are, as you say, what a beautiful way to say it. We are the manifestation of an infinite power.
Yeah.
I like to call it God because that's what I believe, but I know everyone has their own belief and they're entitled to that. But if we are the mirrors of the divine, then we don't really have much to worry about. If we could only connect to that source, that infinite source of power that is tremendous, and accept that we can be the vessel for that.
It's interesting because everything has kind of like the yin and yang. It has its... everything is a paradox in a way. And we go through life, and it's useful to label things, but we must remember that things are that label and so much more. And for example, like right now I feel full of energy because I'm speaking. But if I identify myself with I'm a public speaker, then I'm negating other parts of me, that I'm also a lover, I'm also a father, I'm also a husband, I'm also a civilian in this huge world. And don't focus and don't take things personal. It's like, well, if I'm a speaker, that's all I am, and I need to be consistent with this because you are numbing everything. You're so much more. There's so many parts that come from,
And not to label oneself, because we are so many facets. We're like a diamond, and there's so many facets to us. We are not just one piece.
Yes.
We are multiple pieces that create a kaleidoscope of beauty.
Yes, and that's what makes us so interested, so infinite, so beautiful. And I think we suffer the moment we get attached to one version, one identity, because I'm thinking of Socrates, who said, if you don't get what you want, you suffer. And even if you get exactly what you want, you still suffer because you know it won't last forever.
This is where the despair comes in, and maybe it is to not want anything, but to accept everything that comes, which is not easy.
It's not. Like all these things, and this is the thing, is there's a difference between, you learn things twice. You learn the concept, and you can know the concept, but it's not until you practice it and you embody it that you get to experience it viscerally. And then I think life is it's about experiencing things, and knowing something is not enough, because your values are not your values until they cost you something.
Yes, very true. Very
and you
true.
have to, there's a difference between telling someone I love you as opposed to somebody knows that I love them because I show them and I show up every day. Like, this is the thing about a relationship. It's like moment to moment thing. Yes, I'm married to you, but I want to have that experience of I love you every day, not just while I'm here. It's like, no, we live in a world full of people, and yet we can be in a room full of people and feel lonely because the experience of love is not happening from moment to moment.
What is that loneliness, though? What causes that loneliness?
Being attached to the past. For example, oh, I remember when I fell in love with you. It was wonderful. But that's not there anymore. Things are not like they used to. It's like, yes, because you're not who you used to be. Neither am I. Like, we were constantly evolving and changing. And we need to not so romanticize the past and hope that if things could only be like they used to, it's like impossible. You're attached to a memory. Create a new experience. And you can literally fall in love with someone from moment to moment, because you're creating new experiences and new moments, and you're creating new memories. Memories are great. Just don't be attached to them. Create new ones.
Because we have to stand on the bridge of the now. The past has gone, and we can never walk there with our footsteps. And the future, we might never walk there. And the only thing is the now. And we are all evolving. Every second we are different. I mean, even the simple things of how I thought yesterday is a little different to today. So we are in this stage of enlightenment, of, as you say, we are the light. And I really believe that, and I totally agree with you. And the light, depending on where it shines, it's still, for example, the sun is still the sun, but depending on how it shines, it can make everything look different.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
But it remains the sun.
It remains the sun. Absolutely. And this is the thing, is we need to remember this. There's these two polar energies. I mean, like, life is a paradox, so there's two polar energies that are complementary. We need a little bit of darkness and a little bit of light to be able to appreciate the other. And I heard once that, it is the space in between the notes that makes the music.
That's very beautiful.
And when we're expecting that life should be happy, 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 it's like, no.
But what is happiness? Because what's happiness for you might not be happiness for me.
Exactly. And I think we need to appreciate the moments when we're not happy, or it's like it's that space in between the notes, that if we didn't have those moments of unhappiness, we wouldn't be able to appreciate the happiness. And life is a paradox. It's the only way we can appreciate what we have. We appreciate the day because we know that there's night. We appreciate the night because we know that there's the day, and so on and so on.
Unless we had that, I don't think that we could be balanced in our souls, in our hearts. How can we find balance unless we know the extremes of the two? Sometimes we need that difference to have that eternal compass point within us.
Yeah, we do, absolutely, and I think it's we have to trust that. I mean, if nighttime comes, we have to trust that daylight will come eventually. And I think it's that longing. That, I mean, whenever you're in love with someone, I guess I love talking about love because relationships are awesome, and
it's the beauty of life. If there is no love, then what's the point?
Exactly. It's just there's a difference between having a happy moment and having a happy moment that you get to share with somebody else. And sometimes if you spend every waking minute with some person, then you're negating also the other parts of them. So sometimes you need that space. Sometimes you need a little goodbye, and I look forward to see you again. And that's with everything. That's with happiness. That's with day and night. We need those moments, those pauses in life to be able to have that longing and to be able to look forward to creating a new, something different.
Was it Khalil Gibran? I don't know if you're familiar with him, Giampiero, who said, "Let there be separateness in our togetherness." And it comes from the very famous, I don't know, have you read it? The Prophet.
No, but
you must look it up. Beautiful. You know, it's he talks about relationships and love and marriage. I think you will like it a lot. And it's not about constantly being with each other. It's about looking together in the same direction.
Ooh, I love that.
And I think you will love the book, and it's called The Prophet, and it's by Khalil Gibran, and he talks very much like you do about these things. And we have to have a freedom. We have to have a space in between. Unless we have this space in between, we cannot experience that divinity. There has to be also a space in our togetherness.
Yes. Absolutely, there has to be. And I love what you said, walking in the same direction. There's a thing that my wife and I say together. It's like, we like to walk through this world shoulder to shoulder, walking in the same direction.
Yes. Looking on the same horizon, but you have the ability to be individuals in that beauty.
You have to be. You have to be individuals. I've been exposed to so many teachers that sometimes some of the things that I believe now and say, I'm sure people have heard them before, but I like this concept of, if you come into a relationship, you should come in there with the expectation to give, not to take. And there's this thing, there's you, there's me, and there's this thing that we create called relationship. And we are fully committed to give everything to the thing that we call relationship. That way, you don't owe me anything and I don't owe you anything. We created this thing. And then knowing that the other person could choose to say goodbye, but every day chooses to give to the relationship.
Is it also a case that not to expect anything? If I'm going to give something to you, I shouldn't expect it in return, because if I'm expecting something, then that's not love. We're bartering then.
Right. We often talk about the concept of unconditional love.
Yes, that exactly.
No,
yes.
And the only thing I can control in this world, in this life, in everything that I do, is how I show up and what I do.
Yes.
Unconditionally. But the moment I say, well, I'm not happy because you're not doing this, then it becomes a transaction. I can only do this, I can only be happy if you do that.
Yeah.
Then I'm putting my happiness on your shoulders, and that eventually gets really heavy for the other person, and they will not stick around for too long.
And also, it's a case of if we really, truly love, we must love ourselves, because it's impossible. I have this conversation with so many people, and I can't love you unless I love me, because then I
Yes.
don't know how to love. Unless I respect myself and love myself in, people say, well, that's egotistical. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is on a spiritual level, that I actually accept myself, I love myself, and I give myself the freedom to be me. Then I'm going to give the freedom to you. Because how am I going to be free with you if I'm not free with me? I will then just act as a person who buys a caged bird and keeps it there. Just because
Yeah.
I love you, I'm going to trap you. But that's not love.
No, it's not. Exactly. It's not. People have to choose. People, you make that decision every day. I am free and I'm independent. I'm my own individual, and I choose to stay because whatever we're creating here together is my definition of happiness. But like you said earlier, it starts with you. It starts with that. From scriptures, we learn in the Bible, love your neighbor as you love yourself, which means that the most important relationship is a relationship that you have with you. If you don't know how to love yourself and how to talk to yourself in a very kind way, you're going to love other people like you love yourself, meaning that if you hate yourself, that's how you're going to treat other people.
So the continual challenge for all of us, I think, is to be kind to ourselves.
100%. And I know it sounds a little bit paradoxical. It sounds like, well, that's just egotism. It's like, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. Not at all. Like the other day, I was asked this question. I was in a different podcast, and we were talking about my history about being a soldier. And they asked me, do you feel that being a soldier, having been a soldier, that they taught you how to dehumanize people? And the one thing that came to mind, and if you have some insight, I would love to hear what you think, but I said, no, they taught me to be lethal. But dehumanizing, you don't need any training for that. The moment I think I'm better than you, I'm dehumanizing you. And that there's no training necessary for that, because we do that. We do that to each other. Well, you haven't been to the school that I've been to, or you haven't been to the experiences I've been to, so you're not like me. The moment we take that stance, we dehumanize other people. You don't need military training for that.
Well, I don't know, I might be wrong, but the military is, in effect, a killing machine.
That's what they teach you to do, yes, 100%.
But when I look at somebody, I don't look at them as you as a soldier or you as a motivational speaker. I want to know, who are you as a soul? Tell me who you are as a soul, because all of these are just effects of choices that you've made. And we can be the most evil to ourselves. There's no one that can be more cruel to us than we can be to ourselves. And we have a choice. We have a choice how to treat ourselves, how to treat other people. And it lies in our hands.
Yes, 100%. If you want the world to change, begin with you. Put your house in order, meaning like wherever your body's where you live, the body's where your soul lives. So put that in order. Let's start with you. How do you treat yourself? How do you treat yourself because whether you're in a relationship or not, the moment you turn off the lights and you put your head on your pillow, it's you with you. You're all alone. Most people are saying, someday when I find the right person, then I'll be happy. It's like, no, night always comes, and it's you with you. And if you don't have a really good relationship with you, it's hell.
It is hell. It is hell. And I think it is not about being happy. I've never looked in my life to be happy, Giampiero. I've looked at my life to be peaceful. Am I peaceful with what I'm doing? Happiness is momentary. You take it when you can. But to be peaceful is a permanent state, which means that no matter what happens, happiness, sadness, sorrow, you are still at an equal state within you.
I like what you just said. And it's interesting, and this is why conversations are so important. There's a quote by Wittgenstein where he says, I'm going to paraphrase it because he was so eloquent in the way he explained things, but you use words, don't get attached to the words. You use them as a ladder in which you can climb onto something, and then at some point you must throw away the ladder. Don't get so attached to the word. And people want to be happy, but at the end of the day, if you look around, the purpose of life is not to be happy. Everything around you shows you that life is suffering. However, within the midst of your suffering, you can find significance. And that's something that we learned from Viktor Frankl, being in the middle of a concentration camp.
Yes. It's not your surroundings, it's what you make of yourself in those surroundings, that you can overcome anything, no matter what's happening around you. It's your attitude to those surroundings, whatever that may be in life. Now, Giampiero, tell me, so you are a motivational speaker, is that correct? Where are you going with all of this? What are your hopes for the future?
My hope and this is what I hope. I want people to engage in more conversations. And it's interesting, something that I realized the other day, not long ago, talking to someone, is that more than a motivational speaker, I want to be a motivational listener. There is nothing I can tell you that you already don't know. There's nothing I can tell you to motivate you. What I want is for you to hear yourself speak in such a way that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to reinvent my philosophy, because what I'm saying, what's coming out of my mouth, is not as clever as what is going on in my head. Certain things sound so clever and so beautiful in our head, but the moment we speak, we realize, okay, I need to think that through. That's not exactly what I'm about.
So you have, is it a company called Apex Conversations?
It's something that I started recently. Yes, it's interesting. I heard from a teacher once that the moment you discover your calling, whatever you were put on earth to do, you're going to realize that it's something that you've been doing your entire life.
Yes.
And one thing that I realized, because I've traveled so much since I was 14, that I was always talking to people, and this is why I love airports and train stations, is that...
Me too.
It's beautiful because you meet a stranger, and there is none of this, this is my education, this is my background, here's my CV, you must respect me. It's like, all of a sudden you're like with a stranger sometimes in a foreign land, and you're like, hey, where are you going? And then you start a conversation, and then you start talking about the things that you wouldn't tell your brother or sister. And then you realize, oh my gosh, we don't do that enough. Because sometimes when we try to do it with family, they know our background, and they're like, you're just you. We sort of like, we need to prove ourselves to other people, and with a stranger. Because we know that we're not going to see each other again. You give everything. You speak everything. You speak without censoring yourself. And I had this experience so many times that I said, you know what? I need to do more of this. And not for the sake of giving people advice. There's nothing I can tell you
that you don't already know.
Exactly.
They say that the greatest teachers, there's nothing they can teach us that we don't already know. They just remind us.
And it's not something that I want to have a monopoly on. In fact, I want to inspire people to become better listeners and inspire people to speak more. This is what I say to people. Look, first and foremost, if you've been through something traumatic, go talk to a psychologist. If that's not available to you, find someone you trust and talk to them. Not so you can get answers, so they can give you advice. Tell them, and it takes a lot of courage to tell someone, I want to say something to you. Could you just listen to me? Be with me in this moment.
Be present.
Be present. Don't try to resist the urge to give me advice. Just listen to me.
Just
be there with me. Yeah, empathy, right?
A rarity, but I'm hoping that the world is changing for the better with regards to that. And we will need a little bit of that to start this ripple effect in the world.
I believe that with this whole pandemic, what has happened up to this point is nothing with what is to come. And there's going to be a huge need for more listening ears, because we're in the midst of people who are going to have to reinvent themselves.
Yes, very true. And we are yet to see the effects of that.
Yes, we have no clue what's to come, but it's coming. And people are going to need to. How do you discover who you are? You speak. And you create a space, or you ask for that space for somebody to honor whatever you're saying. Notice what I'm going to say right now is truth. It's not even about that. I'm trying to discover myself. I'm trying to find myself. Would you please help me with that? And if they are not willing to go there, that's fine. Say goodbye until you find someone else. Yeah. Now, number 3, if you cannot find someone who has earned the right to hear your story, get a piece of paper and try to articulate what you're going through right now. Because one thing that I've realized is that feeling anxiety, feeling all the effects of PTSD, feeling angry, feeling frustrated, feeling sadness, feeling unworthy, they have one thing in common. They don't feel good. So it's not enough to say, they don't feel good. So it's not enough to say, I don't feel good today. You have to get specific, because your plan of action for when you're feeling unworthy, for when you're feeling angry, for when you feel frustrated is going to be different. But it starts with pinpointing, what is it that I'm feeling right now?
So Giampiero, where can people get in contact with you?
I have a website, Apex Conversations, apexconversations.com, also in social media. And if I could just be that person, kind of like in the way that we're having this conversation right now, we don't even have to, I want people to hear this conversation, but if people just say, Giampiero, can we have the same kind of conversation you had the other day, or could you just listen to me for a while?
You're happy to do that?
I'm happy to do that. If that's what I can do, if I could be a motivational listener, because I truly believe you are the answer for you. And you are the expert of you if you're willing to ask the question and you're willing to listen to you, because through you, whatever is out there, the infinite will be able to manifest it will be able to manifest itself through you if you're willing.
Very true. And what would you, because we're coming to the end of the podcast episode, which I'm so happy. Thank you so much, Giampiero, for coming on. I could talk for hours really about this sort of thing, because I have a great interest in it, and I want to thank you for coming on. And finally, a couple of lines that you would say to the people out there that have inspired you in life.
I love Carl Jung. And Carl Jung has a quote that says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So I believe that in order for you to make the unconscious conscious, you need to learn how to articulate what is going on inside of you. I believe that the battle of good and evil is something that is happening inside you at all times. And you need to be able to put it into words so you can create a plan of action and create the world that you want.
And this is where you can help. So people can get hold of you through your social media, your website.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to schedule a time when we can have a 15, 20 minutes, an hour conversation, and you want to discover who you are,
okay,
it's you. All you need is a listening ear, somebody who will honor your story.
Honor your story. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Giampiero. It's been a pleasure to hear this, because it is very hopeful, and it's a beautiful energy that you emanate, that you have come through this darkness, but you are there now to help the other people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I hopefully you can come back again, and I'll have you on another show, and you can tell me more stories and tell the listeners more stories and how you've got on with this rather fabulous idea of helping mankind.
I will be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, and take care, Giampiero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, Giampiero Scatollon, what a story. From darkness into the light, and that we are all the light. Indeed we are. And we just have to believe that sincerely and truly, that no matter what the darkness out there, we are the light. We are the ones that can make a difference. Thank you so much, all of you, wherever you are, for listening, for being present with me. And I really, really appreciate your company. Thank you, and I shall see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone, and lots of love.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.